Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is 8:29 on Sunday morning here in Singapore, and I'm looking forward to day 2 of the 21st IISS Shangri-La dialogue. Let me begin by thanking the President of the Republic of Singapore, President Tharman, for the excellent dinner he hosted yesterday at the splendid National Gallery of Singapore, attended by ministers and delegation leaders. We had on Friday evening an important keynote speech by President Marcos of the Philippines. We had a packed agenda yesterday with many very important interventions, including, of course, a statement by Secretary Austin and a special address by the President-elect of Indonesia. We were also able to confirm that President Zelensky of Ukraine will address the Shangri-La dialogue during the 7th plenary session later today. The President arrived yesterday in Singapore and has already held a number of important bilateral meetings. But now, for this 5th plenary session, we are delighted to be able to receive Admiral Dong Jun, the Minister of National Defense of China, to deliver an address on China's approach to global security, China's policy initiatives for regional security in the Asia-Pacific, and of course its engagement on the global level is certainly evolving, and we're looking forward to hearing from the Minister. And I invite him now to take to the podium and deliver his address to the 5th plenary session of the Shangri-La Dialogue. Minister, the podium is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. When the fragrance of orchids permeates the air in June, I'm very glad to come to Singapore and join you at the 21st Shangri-La Dialogue. To discuss ways of promoting security cooperation and long-term peace and stability. Being here in this beautiful Lion City, where East meets West and different cultures blend with each other, we see Singapore's remarkable transformation which tells so much about the development and advances of the Asia-Pacific. And the very purpose of us to gather here today is to promote the well-being of our people and contribute our share to global security. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, in today's turbulent world, people of all countries have a stronger desire for peace and development. Decades of peace and prosperity in Asia-Pacific and the remarkable Asia-Pacific miracle have injected a strong impetus into world development and served as an anchor for global security. It has taught us a lot of things. People in the Asia-Pacific are committed to harmony and peace. For thousands of years, countries with different cultures, religions, ethnic groups, and social systems have lived in a close community. Exchanges and mutual learning among countries has created a culture of harmonious coexistence. In modern times, most countries in Asia-Pacific suffered from aggression and oppression committed by imperialism and colonialism. With a shared memory of devastating wars and turbulence, our people cherish peace more than anything else. Despite problems and differences that have occurred from time to time, dialogue and consultation have always been our favorite choice for resolving differences and disagreements. The 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, initiated by China and other regional countries 70 years ago, remains highly relevant today as a fundamental norm governing state-to-state relations. And safeguarding peace and stability in our region is an important mission for us militaries in Asia-Pacific countries. People in Asia-Pacific are independent and self-reliant. The majority of countries in our region gained independence only after going through hard struggles and making great sacrifices. Therefore, we place great value on independence. And our people are against any attempt to turn our countries into vassal states or draw us into bloc confrontations. We hope to live in an equal and orderly multipolar world. In the course of pursuing development and national renewal, we have chosen social systems and paths suited to our respective national conditions. We have taken independent foreign and defense policies and achieved development and progress with our dedicated efforts. Our people have firmly rejected infiltration, sabotage, and coercion by outside forces. We, countries in the Asia-Pacific, have the ability and confidence to resolve issues in our region. Our people despise those who attempt to bolster themselves by taking orders from hegemonic powers. We're confident that some countercurrents in one area or another can never block the overriding trend of our times. We, the militaries of countries in our region, will always serve as a pillar for boosting our independence and self-development. People in the Asia-Pacific have always supported each other through thick and thin. Being close neighbors bound together by mountains and waters and common interests, the Asia-Pacific countries are naturally a community with a shared future. We have worked in solidarity to resist aggression, fight disasters, and pursue development. We wish each other well as neighbors, just as members of a family do to each other. In the face of common security challenges, no country can stay unaffected. And there is no such thing as absolute security or exclusive security. Regional countries have a fine tradition of reaching out to neighbors who are in need. Despite twists and turns in the past decades, the pursuit of common development and win-win cooperation has remained the prevailing trend. Attempt at decoupling, cutting supply chains, or building a small yard with high fences will find no support here. Our people long for unity, cooperation, and a peaceful life, and we militaries should provide strong support for such aspirations. We owe the hard-won stability and prosperity in the Asia-Pacific to the vision and concerted efforts of our people. And we should cherish such stability and prosperity. We will not allow hegemonism and power politics to undermine the interests of the Asia-Pacific countries. We will not allow anyone to bring geopolitical conflicts or any war, whether hot or cold, to our region. We will not allow any country or any force to create conflict and chaos in our region. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, as we are reaching a crossroads in a world full of challenges, countries are exploring ways to promote peace and development. China, as a responsible major country, is ready to share its practices that have proved successful and work together with other countries to embrace a bright future. President Xi Jinping has articulated the vision of building a community with a shared future for mankind, and he has put forward the Global Development Initiative, the Global Security Initiative, and the Global Civilization Initiative. His vision and initiatives echo the trend of history and respond to the longing of people around the world for a better life. China has always honored its statement with action. The Chinese military stands ready to work with other counterparts to pursue these major initiatives in the Asia-Pacific to deliver more benefits to our people. This is consistent with China's defense policy and guidelines. First, we value peace and harmony. China's strategic culture is anchored on universal love and non-aggression. Ever since the founding of the People's Republic of China more than 70 years ago, we have pursued a national defense policy that is defensive in nature. Peaceful development is an integral part of China's constitution and represents the commitment of the Chinese state. Since the launch of reform and opening up, China has cut the number of its military personnel by over 4 million. This is a solid step which honored our commitment of never seeking hegemony or expansion. China's nuclear policy is a highly stable, consistent, and predictable one. Despite once being subject to nuclear blackmail and threat, China is committed to a nuclear policy of no first use of nuclear weapons at any time and under any circumstances, and not using or threatening to use nuclear weapons against the non-nuclear weapon states or nuclear weapon-free zones unconditionally. We have solemnly stated that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. China is willing to take the lead in signing the protocol to the Treaty on the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone. We advocate settlement of disputes through dialogue and consultation, and despise the law of the jungle. When addressing border and maritime disputes, we have never provoked incidents or easily resorted to the use of force. We have worked with ASEAN countries to implement the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, the DOC, and accelerate consultations on the Code of Conduct, the COC, in the South China Sea, and have maintained peace and tranquility in our region. Second, we're committed to pursuing common security. China champions a vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security. Different countries have different security interests and goals, and there is no one sweeping solution to complex issues. What we need is solidarity. Seeking bloc confrontation can only exacerbate tension and provoke war and conflict. On the Ukraine crisis, China has been promoting peace talks with a responsible attitude. We have never provided weapons to either party of the conflict. We have put strict control on the export of dual-use items and have never done anything to fan the flames. We stand firmly on the side of peace and dialogue. On the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, we adhere to a just and impartial position and work together with the international community to push for a ceasefire. On issues such as those concerning the Korean Peninsula, Afghanistan, and Myanmar, we have actively sought political settlement and thus played a constructive role. On international security issues, the Chinese military has actively shouldered more responsibilities by extensively participating in UN peacekeeping, vessel protection, counterterrorism, and rescue operations, thus providing a large number of public security goods. Regional countries has long been an indivisible one. We stand ready to work with all of you to build an Asia-Pacific community with a shared future and share the benefits of security and development. Third, we are committed to equality and mutual respect. China holds that all countries are equal regardless of their size, and all militaries are equal regardless of their strength. And countries and their militaries should act in good faith and treat each other with mutual respect. The Chinese military never acts from the so-called position of strength in its relations with foreign militaries. At the same time, others should not expect to impose their will on us. China pursues the common good and shared interests above anything else in our defense cooperation with other countries. We are committed to engaging in extensive consultation and joint contribution for shared benefits and building trustworthy security partners among us. The Chinese military has always reached out to those in need. We have also received strong support from a lot of friends, for which I wish to express my deep appreciation to you. On international and regional security issues, China has never coerced others into taking sides or interfered in the internal affairs of other countries. We are committed to promoting equal rights, equal rules, and equal opportunities for all countries. Fourth, we are committed to openness and inclusiveness. The Chinese military upholds openness and cooperation. Today, we have military exchanges with more than 150 countries. We are open and above board, and we strive to pursue mutual benefit and common progress. I know many of you follow with great interest the China-US military-to-military relationship, because whether such relationship is stable matters to global security and stability. China's position is consistent and clear. We stay open to exchanges and cooperation with the US military, but this requires efforts from both sides. As we see it, it is because the two militaries have differences that there is a greater need for communication. Even though we have different development paths, we should not pursue confrontation with each other. The Chinese and US militaries should value peace, uphold stability, act in good faith, and find the right way to get along with each other. This will instill more confidence in the world and our region. On multilateral security cooperation, China calls for inclusiveness for peace and opposes building exclusive military alliances. Various small circles targeting other countries cannot make our region safer and can only cause more attention. The Chinese military will take a more open approach and work with the militaries in countries of our region to build a new type of security partnership featuring equality, mutual trust, and win-win cooperation. Fifth, we are committed to safeguarding our core interests. China always respects the legitimate concerns of other countries, and China's core interests are sacred and inviolable. To safeguard China's sovereignty and territorial integrity is the sacred mission of the Chinese military. The Taiwan question is at the core of China's core interests. And the One China principle has long become a universally recognized norm governing international relations. But what we are seeing now is that the DPP authorities in Taiwan are pursuing separation in an incremental way. They are bent on erasing the Chinese identity of Taiwan and severing social, historical, and cultural links across the Taiwan Strait. Those separatists recently made fanatical statements that show their betrayal of the Chinese nation and their ancestors. They will be nailed to the pillar of shame in history. At the same time, some external interfering forces keep hollowing out the One China principle with a salami slicing strategy. They have cooked up Taiwan-related legislations and continued to sell arms to Taiwan and have illegal official contacts with it. In fact, what they are doing is to embolden Taiwan independence separatists in an attempt to contain China with Taiwan. These malicious intentions are dragging Taiwan into a dangerous situation. China's handling of Taiwan-related issues in accordance with its laws is entirely an internal affair of China, which brooks no foreign interference. China stays committed to peaceful reunification. However, this prospect is increasingly being eroded by separatists for Taiwan independence and foreign forces. The danger of national division is still there. The Chinese People's Liberation Army will remain a strong force for upholding national reunification. We will take resolute actions to curb Taiwan independence and make sure such a plot never succeeds. Anyone who dares to separate Taiwan from China will only end up in self-destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, in a world that is far from peaceful, can we Asia-Pacific countries continue to shield ourselves against the war and enjoy lasting peace? Can we follow our own path of development and achieve common prosperity? Can we reject the Cold War mentality and maintain our big and harmonious family? To answer these questions of our times, every country needs to spring into action with a strong sense of responsibility, credibility, and sincerity to achieve win-win outcomes. Amid the profound changes, we need to build a framework of regional security cooperation that is open, transparent, and based on equality. One that features equal participation and friendly exchanges and is free from bloc confrontation. We should strive to make the Asia-Pacific an anchor for global stability and development. With this in mind, I believe that it is imperative for us to do the following. First, we should protect the legitimate security interests of all countries. One of the deep-rooted causes of the ongoing wars and conflicts is that the security concerns of some countries have long been ignored. What this tells us is that the security interests of all countries should be upheld and their legitimate concerns addressed. China supports countries in our region in pursuing strategic autonomy and keeping their security firmly in their own hands. We will, as always, uphold fairness and justice for other developing countries and create more opportunities for them to engage in security governance on an equal basis. China will endeavor to build the Beijing-Shanshan Forum, the China-Africa Peace and Security Forum, the Middle East Security Forum, and the China-Latin America and the Caribbean States Defense Forum into platforms for addressing the interests of different parties and enhancing security cooperation. Second, we should build a more just and equitable international order. There's only one international system, namely the international system with the United Nations at its core. There's only one international order, namely the international order underpinned by international law. The ongoing Palestinian-Israeli conflict has created a humanitarian catastrophe. International fairness and justice is severely undermined by double standard. The painful lesson we should learn is that the authority of the UN must be strengthened, not weakened, and the international law must be upheld, not violated. The Chinese military will enhance policy coordination with foreign defense authorities under the UN framework. We will make greater contributions to UN peacekeeping, build high-standard standby forces, and dispatch new types of forces for peacekeeping. Regarding the disputes on the sovereignty over islands and reefs, and maritime rights and interests, I want to say that the authority of international law is based on the principles of respecting facts and upholding justice. On behaviors of fabricating historic facts, spreading false narratives, attempting to enforce the illegal arbitration award, and confusing right with wrong, we're very much concerned that such behaviors of pretending to uphold fairness and justice and blackmailing others under the guise of international law will severely damage international rule of law. Third, we should give full play to regional security architecture. China upholds true multilateralism in regional security affairs. The ASEAN-centered architecture for regional security cooperation is widely recognized as a viable and effective one. China will continue to firmly support ASEAN centrality and oppose any act to weaken it. We hope other major countries will also express their support for ASEAN centrality. The Chinese military will strengthen coordination with ASEAN on strategic planning in the defense field and deepen cooperation under the ADMM+. This will improve our capabilities to safeguard security in our region. Fourth, we should advance open and substantive defense cooperation. We should promote mutual benefit and win-win cooperation. Relevant countries should abandon their zero-sum mindset, arrogance, and bias, and treat regional countries with sincerity. The Chinese military welcomes cooperation with the militaries of all other countries which have sincerity and goodwill towards us. We will make further efforts for openness and cooperation. For countries with which we have engaged in cooperation, we will deepen and expand our cooperation with them on joint exercises and training, equipment and technology, and logistics support, so as to improve the performance of such cooperation. For our new cooperation partners, we are ready to start with areas such as military culture, disaster relief, and medical service, and advance our cooperation with them step by step. We have a well-established system of military education, and we are ready to provide greater support to other countries in personnel training and offer tailored courses to meet different needs. Through close personnel exchanges, we can enhance mutual understanding and strengthen our friendship. Fifth, we should set an example of maritime security cooperation. The ocean serves as a natural bond for promoting win-win cooperation among countries in our region. Peace at sea is vital for our region's prosperity. We should draw strength from our unique Asian wisdom to build consensus and seek common ground while shelving differences. We should not allow disputes or differences to stand in the way of development and cooperation. The Chinese military is ready to conduct more extensive maritime interactions and exchanges with the militaries of other countries to deepen mutual trust and cooperation. I know you have followed closely the South China Sea issue. Thanks to concerted efforts made by countries in the region, the South China Sea has seen overall stability. However, a certain country, emboldened by outside powers, have broken bilateral agreements and its own promises, made premeditated provocations, and created false scenario to mislead the public. Moreover, it has ignored the overall interests of our region and violated the ASEAN Charter by allowing an outside country to deploy a mid-range missile system. This act will endanger the security and stability of our region, and it will eventually backfire. I'm sure that the international community is clear-eyed about this. China has exercised a great restraint in the face of such infringements and provocations. But there is a limit to our restraint. We hope this country could see where its true interests lie, return to the right track of dialogue and consultation, and work with other countries in the region to make the South China Sea a sea of peace, friendship, and cooperation. Six, we should strengthen security governance in emerging areas. Emerging areas should create new opportunities for promoting common development for mankind, rather than becoming a new ground of arms race. In the face of security and development challenges in emerging areas, countries should jointly respond to them early, and we should share the benefits created by new technologies. We should reject the behaviors of overstretching the concept of national security and preventing other countries' technology development by imposing technology blockade. Major countries should set an example in this regard. China stays committed to peace, development, inclusiveness, and shared governance. It will actively pursue the Global Initiative on Data Security and the Global AI Governance Initiative. We will engage in extensive security dialogues in emerging areas with other countries and jointly establish rules of governance that fully meet developing countries' interests and deliver benefits of new technologies to all. Ladies and gentlemen, the trend of our times towards peace and development is surging ahead and unstoppable. The Chinese military stands ready to work with the militaries around the world to deepen security cooperation and make greater contributions to booster common prosperity and enduring peace in the Asia-Pacific. Thank you.
Minister, thank you very much for this very wide-ranging statement. There are, as you will imagine, there are a number of people who would like to ask you questions and hear your responses to them. So given that we have a limited time available, I will take a couple of questions in a group. I will then turn to you to address them, and then we will get more questions in after that. So the list is over 30 long, so we won't get to all of them, but let me start with Chung-Min Lee from Korea.
Thank you, Minister, for your speech and your overview of Asian security. My question to you, sir, is this. You say that China does everything correct for security and defense in this region, but many in this country, in this region, think that what you do is exactly the opposite. You argue that China is against cyber attacks, yet your companies, such as IISS or Anshun, data leakage has revealed consistent attacks against all Asian countries, including all ASEAN governments. You argue that you are against nuclear proliferation and you want a nuclear-free Asia, yet your country continues to support Kim Jong-un's nuclear state. And you also work very closely with Russia. Finally, you argue that you are for the freedom of navigation, and yet you are threatening ASEAN states, including the Philippines, every single day. And you claim the South China Sea is basically all Chinese. So how can we trust you when your words and your actions are totally opposite? Thank you.
Chung-Min, thank you for that question. We will collect a few, and then we will give the minister an opportunity to respond. The next question, Julia Ganter from Germany, please.
Thank you. Minister, yesterday the Indonesian President-elect Prabowo reminded us that with great power comes great responsibility. Now you have mentioned both Ukraine and the Middle East, but my question is, what concrete and immediate actions can we expect from China to enable peace in the Middle East, but also in Ukraine, in order to assume this responsibility? And will you, for example, arrange your own peace conference in which Russia and Ukraine take part? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Josh Rogan from the US, please.
Thank you very much. Mr. Minister, you say that China stays committed to peaceful reunification with Taiwan. But last month, after the people of Taiwan inaugurated their democratically elected leader, William Lai, China's response was to run punishment drills surrounding Taiwan with warships and airplanes, conducting mock attacks, and punishing Taiwan's economy as well. Are these actions intended to convince the Taiwanese people that China is truly interested in peaceful reunification? And wouldn't the cause of peace and stability benefit if China engaged with Taiwan's chosen leaders rather than rejecting their offers of dialogue? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take two more in this round. From India, Vipratap Vikram Singh.
Thank you. Can you speak on the reasons to disband the Strategic Support Force and the creation of the Cyberspace Force and Information Support Force? What kind of current and future conflicts are you preparing for? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last in this round from Thailand, Surachani Srijai.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister. Being one of the most, if not the most influential external actor for mainland Southeast Asia, how does China envision its presence in Myanmar crisis? Specifically, will China be interested in mediating for a nationwide de-escalation of conflict in Myanmar, not just the areas bordering China or where China have interest? If so, how do you envision it to be achieved? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take those for now. Minister, if I may ask you to react to some of these questions.
First, I want to thank Dr. Gingrich for your moderating. I can see there are many questions for me. I can feel the charm of the Shangri-La dialogue. There is a wide participation, and I know there are many questions coming, and in the interest of time, I'll get directly to the questions. I know they cover different issues. So I just want to briefly respond to these questions and combined my discussions with defense leaders with many countries in the past 2 days. I know there are focus on some major issues. First, I want to talk about the Taiwan question. You know, an expert from the US asked this question. Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. It's a province of China. I think this fact is very clear. There's no need for me to go into details about this fact. Whether historically or jurisprudentially or as realities, China has exercised jurisdiction for Taiwan over 1,000 years. And for legal basis, after the Second World War, 1943 Carroll Declaration, 1945 Potsdam Declaration, and the UN 2758 resolution in 1971, all confirmed that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. And today, 183 countries in the world have diplomatic relations with China, and they all can recognize that Taiwan is an inalienable part of China. I think this is a basic fact. So the key issue today is, at this very moment, the one China, the status quo of one China is being undermined. The one China principle is being eroded. The forces for Taiwan independence are unilaterally changing the status quo of one China. We see during the recent inauguration, so-called inauguration ceremony of the Taiwan leader, in his speech, he made very blatant statement about his ambition for Taiwan independence. I did not find that surprised, because this is what the DPP authorities have been doing in the past few years. Since they took office, politically, they did not recognize the 1992 consensus on one China principle. And they're trying to change Taiwan's constitution and amend the constitution and other laws, and trying to change Taiwan's textbooks to erase the Chinese identity. And they prevent people-to-people exchanges between the mainland and Taiwan. And militarily, they are strengthening their military capabilities to push for Taiwan independence. So this is an incremental approach to independence. So I think another reason of their aggressiveness is because support and encouragement from outside forces. We know some big power keeps hollowing out the One China principle, distorted facts, and even to misinterpret UN General Assembly resolutions. They have violated their commitment to China when we established diplomatic relations. And they keep testing China's red lines. For example, the red line about official engagement with Taiwan and then arms sales to Taiwan. They're selling a lot of weapons to Taiwan. This kind of behavior sent very wrong signals to the Taiwan independence forces and make them become very aggressive. I think we are clear what the foreign powers' true purpose. They're trying to contain China with Taiwan. And we see the international community, many countries and state leaders and international organizations speak out their support for the One China principle and opposition against Taiwan independence. We see the United Nations issued a statement that Taiwan is a province of China. Therefore, given the current circumstances, we need to focus on the actions taken by the forces for Taiwan independence. And currently, they are trying to use force to resist reunification and trying to strengthen their military capabilities. And also, the foreign power is dumping weapons to Taiwan. So I think this kind of strategy of using force to resist for independence will not work facing the People's Liberation Army and China.
I think we understood the point, but can I ask you to perhaps say a word about the Middle East and Ukraine as well, since that question came up as well, yeah? If you could address the question of the Middle East and Ukraine as well, if you could spend a minute on China's view of peace process there.
我想先把这个台湾问题
First, to finish on Taiwan, this is the core of our core interest. Since it was asked, I'll first to finish this one. I think facing the strong People's Liberation Army, their efforts will be futile. And their efforts can only lead to accelerated demise and only undermine the interests of people in Taiwan, and that's the least thing we want to see in China. As a defense minister, to be very honest with you, we are prepared for all kinds of extreme situations that may happen for Taiwan independence. And we are very confident in our capabilities to deter Taiwan independence. China is a major country. We will and must realize its unification, but we are committed to peaceful unification. We'll try our best and with the biggest sincerity to realize peaceful unification. I also want to send a message to the forces for Taiwan independence to abandon the illusion and return to the right track of unification. And also to have more legal public awareness campaigns. For example, the China's anti-successionist law do not cross the legal red lines in this law.
Is that a 10-minute answer to one? This was a 10-minute answer to one of the questions. Can I ask you for 1-minute answer on the other question, please? Would that be possible? Yeah, is that possible, please? Thank you.
2句话，所以
So I think I made myself very clear on Taiwan question. Taiwan independence will only cause its own demise. I want to re-emphasize that Taiwan is an internal affair of China. The foreign forces should not interfere. Dr. Gingrich reminds me of the time. And also the maritime security. I also want to say a few words on maritime security. Of course, you mentioned the freedom of navigation. As we all know, the South China Sea is one of the busiest area for international shipping. Over 50% of global shipping and 1/3 of cargo ships go through this region. But up till now, I never heard. And also according to statistics from international organizations, in the South China Sea, there's never one incident that any civilian ship, have their freedom of navigation being compromised. We see recently a head of state from a Southeast Asian country also expressed same idea. So why this always becomes an issue, the freedom of navigation? Why it always brought up? I want to say, there are risks. Because this place is prosperous, some big power are keep increasing their military presence in this area, in particular strengthening, deploying more military assets. So what is their purpose? Are you coming here for peace? Or stirring up troubles? I'll just give you an example, like Operation Safety. Some country itself has not signed the UNCLOS yet. And without authorization from any international organizations, they're trying to use the UNCLOS to violate other countries' sovereignty with the so-called freedom of navigation operations they entered into territorial sea space of other countries. This is a hegemonic behavior. If I compare South China Sea to a busy city with a lot of traffic, there's a lot of vehicles on the road. And this city is well in order, and there's no problem. But if you don't drive on the main way, but drive into others' houses, and you don't allow others to make response, is that freedom? I don't believe this kind of behavior equals freedom. I'll end soon. This country says by itself that each year they conduct freedom navigation operations against dozens of countries. And there are many victims of their operations, and many countries in the South China Sea. We are all victims of these kind of operations. If this is freedom navigation, then I don't understand what rules means anymore.
We're running out of time rapidly, so I want to quickly get, we're coming up to the end of our session, so I want to quickly get a few more views in before then hearing your responses. First one in this round is Bonnie Glaser from the US. Minister, can we have a few more questions, please? Thank you.
Yes, Minister Dong. Philippines President Marcos said clearly in his keynote address that if a Filipino citizen is willfully killed in an encounter at Second Thomas Shoal, that is very close to an act of war. The United States has stated repeatedly that it will honor its commitment to the Philippines under the U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty. The risk of a military conflict, in my estimation, is significant and growing. But I believe that neither the United States, the Philippines, nor China seeks military conflict. What will China do to de-escalate the dangerous situation? Will you today commit to stop using water cannons and ramming Filipino vessels and pursue a peaceful resolution through dialogue? Thank you.
Well, let's get another point in, please. Maya Nouwens from the Netherlands.
Thank you, Bastian. Minister Dong, last year, China and Russia signed an MOU on maritime law enforcement cooperation, and this year you held your first meeting to mark the one-year anniversary of that MOU. Can you, for transparency's sake, please provide more information on what you aim to achieve with this new MOU for cooperation? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll take one more, and then we'll have a response from the minister. One more from Japan, Takesugo Sato.
Thank you, Minister. Recently, Chinese ambassador to Japan said that if Japan were to join to the division of China, it would lead Japanese people into the fire. So on your remarks, you said China does not provoke, but it's clearly provocation. If China suggests an intention to attack to Japan, we must call China a threat. Do you believe that the ambassador's statement is appropriate? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister, I'll turn back to you now for a final round of comments from you. I just like to point out, you've made some very clear statements. You're getting some very clear questions in reaction to those statements. So I'll invite you now to take maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes to offer your thoughts on the issues that are still on the table, please, and including the de-escalation question. Thank you.
哎呀，
Sorry, doctor. I think it's a hard question. It's hard for me to make myself clear in 3 or 4 minutes. But I just want to mention a very key issue, the South China Sea issue. I mentioned our position in my speech. We believe for the South China Sea remains stable. There are some frictions, but China's position and our principle remains consistent, and I will not repeat that here. As for the issue over the second Thomas show, I think the current problem is that in 1999, since the other side illegally grounded their desolate landing ship on this show, our two countries have been talking about this issue peacefully for the past 20 years. I'm not going to talk about the disputes over sovereignty. Our experts have already made our position very clear. So our two countries have been committed and have been working on this issue. At first, they promised to tow this away, and then we reached some other agreements. For humanitarian reasons, we agreed that they can send supplies to personnel on this ship. And we reached several agreements. And all the previous administrations and the current administration also recognized this agreement. But recently, they started not recognize it at all. This is a unilateral reneging of their promise. As we say in China, it's like a deliberate bumping. We are creating a false scenario. Like like a passersby, he hit a vehicle by himself and then played the victim to blackmail the driver on the vehicle. Actually, it is a deliberate action, and is trying to make an issue of this kind of incident. I think this is blackmail and hijacking rules, because we're always talking about rule-based international order. I think this is not even morally right. And China's law enforcement are very restrained and in accordance with our law. And our policy is consistent for the past many decades. We're committed to peaceful resolution of the disputes. But I also want to say our tolerance for deliberate provocation will have a limit. Thank you. Doctor, it's my first time to join the Shangri-La dialogue. I had many different feelings, and I want to share with you. And see from your questions, there are many, many questions for China. And I also want to have more time to talk with the audience. And I'll be mindful of the time. I think the Shangri-La dialogue is a very good platform with a focus on regional security. It's a very open platform and with different opinions, different ideas. I learned a lot from this year's participation, and I know this is one of the one of the best security forum in the world, and I wish this year's Shangri-La dialogue a full success. This is my first participation. In my discussions with all the leaders, I want to say 2 points. First, I know you are all very interested in China, and there are a lot of attention on China. And on China's security initiatives and the community with a shared future for mankind. And we see some support for them. As China's defense minister, I feel responsibilities on my shoulders. My second point is that I hope the Shangri-La dialogue can pool our wisdom together and to add more positive expectations for stability in the Asia-Pacific. This should never be an arena for competition. China will continue to act in a responsible manner and participate in international activities. We also host a lot of international activities. For example, the Beijing Xiangshan Forum. We will host it in the later half of this year. We will learn from your experience of this Shangri-La dialogue, and we will put our focus on building consensus and give priority to the security interests of developing countries and to work together. Peace, cooperation is our biggest purpose. And I want to invite all the audience to come to Beijing. And I would like to see you in Beijing. Thank you.
The purpose of the Shangri-La dialogue is in part to provide a platform and an opportunity for governments to present their views and their positions so that they can be debated and discussed with a wide-ranging audience. We certainly have had some of that this morning, so thank you very much for that. We must now close this session. We have a very quick staging break, and then we go immediately into the next plenary session. Thank you very much.